CPAP, that is continuous positive airway pressure, is a non-invasive mode of ventilation which is increasingly being used for the management of respiratory distress syndrome in preterm infants. In this session, we would learn the essentials of CPAP, starting, maintenance, monitoring, and weaning an infant on CPAP, the criteria for success and failure, and also few troubleshoots. The essentials of CPAP are delivering pressure, giving oxygen in a dose-regulated manner, that is titrated, fractional inspired oxygen concentration, flow of gases, warming and humidification of the gases which we give for the babies. The three essential aspects are pressure delivery, oxygen delivery, and delivery of flow. Delivery of pressure depends upon the equipment which we use. When delivering pressure using a ventilator, pressure is generated by the PEEP valve which is at the end of expiratory limb. Flow is usually constant in ventilator CPAP. When delivering pressure using bubble CPAP, the pressure is generated by immersing the expiratory limb inside water. The depth of immersion of the expiratory limb is equal to the pressure generated in the respiratory circuit. Flow could be variable or constant in a bubble CPAP. Pressure is generated in a flow driver by the positive flow of the respiratory gases in the circuit which occurs against the expiratory flow of the infant, and hence flow is variable in flow driver. For any delivery device, gas flow or a continuous gas flow in the respiratory circuit is a must. As we discussed, pressure is generated in a ventilator CPAP with the PEEP valve or an expiratory valve which sits at the end of expiratory limb. When this valve obstructs the gas flow, the pressure is generated and now the gas starts moving into the patient. Whereas in a bubble CPAP, pressure is generated by immersing the expiratory limb inside the bubble chamber. The depth of immersion of the expiratory limb inside the water is equal to the pressure generated in the circuit. Increasing the depth of immersion increases the pressure generated in the circuit, and hence more gas will start flowing into the patient. The normal range of pressure which we give for a baby on CPAP varies from 4 to 8 centimeters of water. Chest recessions, lung inflation on the X-ray, oxygenation as judged from the saturations and PaO2s would help us in titrating the pressures which we give for the patient. Increased retractions, low volume of the lungs on the X-ray, that is lung spaces less than 6 or a saturation less than 87% or a PaO2 less than 50 mm of mercury necessitate increasing pressure, and hyperexpansion of the chest, increased lung spaces, that is more than 8 spaces on the lung X-ray, saturation more than 93% and a PaO2 more than 80 mm of mercury necessitate decreasing pressure. Coming to the FiO2, the range of FiO2 which we deliver for a baby on CPAP vary from 21% to 60%. And to get this dose regulation, we need a blender, a compressed air source and a compressed oxygen source. One would titrate the FiO2 to maintain the saturation between 87 to 93% or a PaO2 between 50 to 80 mm of mercury. For improving oxygen, so one would increase either the pressure or the oxygen, that is fractional inspired concentration of oxygen. When the baby is having saturation less than 87% and has increased retraction, one would increase the pressure, that is CPAP, rather than the FiO2. On the contrary, If there are no retractions, but saturations are less than 87%, one would increase the FiO2 and not the pressure. The other important components of CPAP delivery are flow of gases, warming and humidification. The gas flow is required to generate the pressure or the CPAP. Flow could be variable as in a flow driver or could be constant as in a ventilator. In a bubble CPAP, the adequacy of flow is judged from the continuous bubbling which occurs in the bubble CPAP. For delivering a pressure from 4 to 8 centimeters, most of the scenarios of bubble CPAP, one would require a flow varying from 2 to 8 liters per minute. Humidification should be about relative humidity of 100% and a temperature should be at 37 degrees when the gas reaches the patient interface. Now this is a typical CPAP equipment where you can see the air source, the compressed oxygen source. They both going to the blender. This is the blender, and from the blender the mixed air oxygen comes to the flow meter. The flow is titrated or regulated from the flow meter. The gas starts going to the humidifier. From the humidifier, the gas goes in the inspirator limb. In the inspirator limb, there is dry heating of the gas, and from there, the gas goes to the patient from the patient interface. And from the patient interface, you can see that the expirator limb is going into the bubble chamber, and we know that the depth of immersion of the expirator limb inside the bubble chamber will decide the pressure which we give to the patient. Now, when the gas is going into the humidifier chamber, the gas which exits from the humidifier chamber is at relative humidity of 100% and at a temperature of 37 degrees. This gas, while it goes to the patient, gets heated to 39 degrees with a fall in relative humidity in the inspirator limb. But by the time again the gas reaches the patient, it comes back to a temperature of 37 with a relative humidity of 100%, and this is the function of a servo humidifier. Now coming to the practical aspects of starting CPAP for a baby with respiratory distress, the prime requirement for starting CPAP in an infant is there should be spontaneous breathing efforts. In a preterm infant, that is for a gestation less than 35 weeks, if the infant has respiratory distress, he needs to be started on CPAP. Irrespective of the intensity or severity of respiratory distress in the first 6 hours of life. But if the preterm infant comes after 6 hours of life, we need to start CPAP if the respiratory distress is associated with a Silverman score more than or equal to 3. CPAP is also started in preterm infants when they have recurrent apneas or post-extubation from a ventilator or after an in-shore technique. In a term infant, CPAP is started for hypoxic infants while they receive 100% oxygen. So that is, if they remain cyanosed or have a saturation less than 85% when they are on 100% oxygen, they may be started on CPAP, or those term infants with a Downey score more than 6 can be started on CPAP. And in term infants, the usual indication for starting CPAP are pneumonia or a meconium aspiration syndrome. In meconium aspiration syndrome, CPAP is started especially if the lung volumes are less on the chest X-ray. CPAP does not work for babies with poor respiratory efforts, as in those with severe asphyxia. It may be counterproductive in infants with congenital diaphragmatic hernia, as this would interfere the CPAP would interfere with expansion of the normal lung, and it would be difficult to obtain a seal in conditions like tracheoesophageal fistula, choanal and cleft palate. CPAP also may not be successful in infants with cardiovascular instability, such as those with inotrope resistant shock and those with scleroderma or those with multi-organ dysfunction. When we start CPAP for the infant, one should make sure the equipment is ready, connect the infant to a pulse oximeter, start him on oxygen, fix the cap, choose the right size prongs, It could be an interface, could be a Fisher & Paykel or a Hudson or an Argyle or an Incap. After you connect the prongs, connect the respiratory circuit to the interface, check the circuit, check the water level in the bubble chamber and check for the water in the humidifier chamber. So it could be a Fisher & Paykel interface as you can see here, or it could be a Hudson interface as you can see in the subsequent picture. After starting or after fixing the interface, always make sure that you put an orogastric tube, and the tip of the tube should always be kept open for venting out the excess gas which goes into the baby's stomach. Follow the rule of 5 when you start CPAP for an infant. The 3 essential components of CPAP are flow, pressure and FiO2. Start with a pressure of 5 centimeters, start with an FiO2 of 50% and a flow of 5 liters per minute. Immediately regulate the flow by looking at the bubbles in the bubble chamber. If there are no bubbles, increase the flow after making sure that there are no leaks in the circuit or no leaks in the interface. For changing the pressure and FiO2, wait for 15 to 20 minutes, and if the retractions are persisting or if the lung volume is low on the X-ray, increase the pressure. If the saturations are low, that is less than 87%, and retractions have come under control, to make sure that oxygen is inadequate, increase the FiO2. When we put the baby on CPAP, subsequent monitoring of FiO2 and pressure would be based on saturation, chest X-ray and clinical monitoring of respiratory distress. The FiO2 would range from 21 to 60%, and this would be titrated based on the saturations of 87 to 93%. Lower saturations, one would increase the FiO2, and higher saturations, one would decrease the FiO2. And the pressure range would vary from 4 to 8 centimeters. As we have already discussed, increasing recessions, low lung volumes and low saturation would necessitate increasing pressure and vice versa. Flow is regulated to maintain continuous bubbling in the bubble chamber and in a bubble CPAP, and flow is fixed in a ventilator. While increasing or decreasing the pressure and FiO2, maintain a principle of proportionality. Understand that a pressure of 5 requirement would require a FiO2 or a fractional oxygen concentration of 50%. When the pressure requirement is increasing, that is when the oxygen requirement or oxygenation is inadequate, increase the pressure from 5 to 6 centimeters and then go up on the FiO2 in steps of 5% from 50 to 55 and from 55 to 60%. If the baby continues to be hypoxic and has increasing retractions, then increase the pressure from 6 to 7 and then go up on the FiO2 from 60 to 65% and then from 65 to 70%. Remember the concept of open lung when you start giving CPAP for a baby. Once the lungs are open or once the alveolars are open with the pressure, increase the FiO2. Remember that a CPAP of less than 4 centimeters is never given for a baby on CPAP. A CPAP of 4 to 7 centimeters is a good range. It would help in recruiting the alveoli, in decreasing the respiratory distress and in decreasing the complications. A CPAP of more than 7 is a bad range as the advantages are few, but the risk of complications increases dramatically. We have realized that warming and humidification are as essential as providing oxygen and pressure for a baby on CPAP. The crux is to maintain a relative humidity of 100% and a temperature of gases of 37 degrees while the gas enters the patient's interface. Dew of gases, dew of vapor in the inspiratory limb and some condensation in the expiratory limb are markers for adequate humidification. Condensation in the inspiratory limb or excess water in the inspiratory limb indicates excess cooling of gases before it reaches the patient, and no condensation in the expiratory limb means the humidification is inadequate. One should measure the temperature of gases while they enter the patient interface to make sure that the humidifier is working adequately. One can see here the display is 37. That means the gas entering the patient is 37 degrees Celsius. And you can also note that the gas once it comes out of the humidifier chamber is 37 degrees Celsius with a relative humidity of 100%. While it is in the inspiratory limb, it gets overheated or gets dry heated to 39 degrees when the heater wire ends, or when the heating ends in the inspiratory limb, and the extra limb from the heater wire till it reaches the patient allows for some cooling of gases from 39 to 37, again bringing back the relative humidity to 100%. Monitoring of an infant on CPAP is an essential component to ensure adequacy and also to pick up complications early. And this monitoring would include monitoring of the patient, which includes monitoring of the respiratory status, cardiovascular status, and also neurological status. It will also include monitoring of the interface and the equipment to ensure an adequate and appropriate delivery of CPAP to the infant. Chest X-ray indicated in 3 situations while a baby is on CPAP. Initially, one would get the X-ray to mark the diagnosis. Then after starting the infant on CPAP, we would like to get an X-ray to see for lung expansion. We know that 6 to 8 spaces on the lungs is adequate lung expansion. X-ray is also indicated whenever there is sudden deterioration for a baby on CPAP. Now, once the baby is on CPAP, we know that CPAP is adequate when the baby is comfortable, not fighting with the CPAP machine, when the retractions are minimal, when there is no grunting, when the capillary refill time is less than 3 seconds, blood pressures are maintained, the saturations are between 87 to 93%, and the blood gas is normal. Bubbling in the bubble chamber is a sign that the pressure is achieved in the respiratory circuit. And bubbling sounds heard in the chest indicates that the pressure has actually reached the lungs and opened the alveoli. So always look for bubbling in the bubble chamber and bubble sounds on auscultation in the infraaxillary region of the infant to make sure that the CPAP is working well. Now that we have maintained the baby on CPAP, adequately assured the lung inflation, maintain the oxygenation, we would now see when and how to start weaning the baby from CPAP. Now remember the concept of open lung when you wean the pressure and oxygen. While coming down on the pressure and oxygen, it is always better to come down on FiO2 before you come down on the pressure. If the baby is on a pressure of 7 and FiO2 of 70%, come down on the FiO2 from 70 to 65 and then from 65 to 60 before you come down on the pressure from 7 to 6 centimeters of water. In that sequence, come down on the pressures in steps of 1 centimeters and FiO2 in steps of 5%. Once a baby is on FiO2 50% and a pressure of 5 centimeters, from the next step would be to come down on the FiO2 to as low as 30% before you start decreasing the pressure further. Now when a baby is on FiO2 less than 30% and a pressure of 5 centimeters, then you start decreasing the pressure from 5 to 4 centimeters. All this while keep judging the adequacy of lung inflation, oxygenation as judged from the saturations, and also look for comfortability of baby. Now one would remove the infant from CPAP when the disease for which you started CPAP is under control, like that respiratory distress syndrome. We have controlled the respiratory distress, and if it is apnea, the apnea is under control for 24-48 hours before you remove the baby from CPAP. CPAP is removed when the pressure requirement is 4 or less than 4 centimeters and FiO2 requirement is less than 30%. It is important to monitor the infant closely after removing from the CPAP. Immediately after removing CPAP, a good oronasal suction should be done, and if required, a saline ablation can be given, especially when the secretions are plenty. Always look for apneas, increasing retractions, increasing tachypnea, and episodes of bradycardia after removing a baby from CPAP. The first 6 hours after removing the baby from CPAP are very critical, and as the risk of restarting CPAP is very high during this time. Frequent change in positioning and a gentle suction, a gentle chest physiotherapy along with oronasal suction would help us in adequately and completely extubating the baby from CPAP. Now, what is the criteria we say that baby has failed CPAP, and when do we go for ventilation? If a baby on CPAP continues to have retractions, increased work of breathing as suggested by the grunt and retractions, or if he continues to have recurrent apneas while he was in CPAP, he continues to be hypoxic, meaning saturation less than 85% or a PaO2 less than 50 mm of mercury on pressures of more than 7 and FiO2 more than 60%, or if the infant has poor respiratory efforts and has a PCO2 more than 55 mm of mercury, or if the baby is fighting the CPAP too much, we consider that CPAP has failed, and this is the time to start the baby on a ventilation. But before we label a baby as failed CPAP, it is important to look at what is the cause for CPAP failure. Is it the CPAP delivery system, or is it problem in the lung, or is extra lung problem in the baby? Now, the problems in the delivery system could be at the interface or in the circuit or in the machine, and the problems in the baby may be related to the lung, like increasing lung disease, or it may be extra lung diseases such as cardiorespiratory collapse or cardiovascular collapse like shock, intraventricular hemorrhage, opening of the duct, necrotizing enterocolitis, and so on. Assessing of the saturations, retractions, auscultating for air entry, bubbling in the bubble chamber are the 4 important criteria which would help us in identifying and rectifying the problems while the baby is on CPAP. If a baby has low saturations, has moderate to severe retractions, air entry is poor on auscultation, but bubbling is good, most likely we are dealing with increasing lung disease, and this would mandate increasing pressure on the CPAP. Next, if the saturations are low, but there are no or mild retractions, air entry is good and bubbling is good, that means we are not dealing with alveolar or lung hypoinflation. This would mean extra lung problems like pulmonary hypertension, congenital heart diseases, or a blender malfunction. Next, if the saturations are normal but the retractions are moderate to severe, air entry is good, bubbling is good, that means we might be dealing with a case of metabolic acidosis and not really lung related problem. If the saturations are low, retractions are mild to moderate, air entry is poor, bubbling is good, that means there is some obstruction in the interface or in the airway of the patient. And lastly, if saturations are low, retractions are mild to moderate, air entry is poor, and if there is no or poor bubbling in the bubble chamber, there are leaks. The leaks could be in the respiratory circuit, patient interface, or it could be because of open mouth in the baby. Now, if you learn these simple steps of application of CPAP, you would help many babies with respiratory distress and also build the confidence among your team for applying this low-cost technology. Good luck.